Professional, OWASP Top 10 Security Vulnerabilities, and it will be doing a demo as well. So it will be 70% of theory and 30% will be live hands-on demo. Let's look into it together. Some housekeeping items. Please keep yourself muted all the time. In this particular session, I will not be taking Q&A. We are going to cover agenda in today's theoretical explanation, that is DevSecOps baseline, what a DevSecOps professional does on a daily basis, a day in a DevSecOps professional's life. Then we are going to compare traditional software development lifecycle with secure development lifecycle. We are going to look at containers 101. Why is it important to scan Docker images? OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. This will be key to our future workshop series because OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities will help us, will do a level set to understand the vulnerabilities we are finding in application. And last but not the least, we are going to cover container security scan and its tools together. So what are roles and responsibilities of DevSecOps professionals? The primary responsibility of a DevSecOps professional is to ensure that security is baked into SDLC. DevSecOps professionals use a triad of people, process, and technology. They ensure that application developers as well as operation teams are very well educated about application security, and security is baked into the process and not an afterthought. Second is process. They ensure that monitoring and automating of security process and test systems is done. Third is technology. Developing automated application security tools and implementing solutions to address infrastructure and security requirements. So in this particular slide, we are going to cover traditional SDLC versus secure SDLC. As you can see, that security is a thought process in the fourth stage, in the testing phase. Due to this kind of software development lifecycle, it is more likely that your software or application is vulnerable to breaches. Whereas if you look at the secure software development lifecycle, the security is baked into the process from the stage one. In the stage one, we are doing gap analysis. Gap analysis essentially means where you are and where you want to be. Threat modeling. Threat modeling is what threats you might encounter with, what and how to mitigate that. That's threat modeling. Secure coding and its practices and its best practices. In security and vulnerability testing, we'll be looking at in the future workshops where we'll be doing static application security test and dynamic application security test. And in today's workshop, hands-on live workshop, we are going to cover secure deployment, where we'll be actually scanning the container or an infrastructure deployed. And the last but not the least, maintenance and monitoring of your application, continuous maintenance and monitoring of your application and software development lifecycle. All of that we are going to look in the upcoming lectures, in the upcoming workshop, but in today, we are going to focus on secure deployment, where we'll be scanning a container and identifying the vulnerabilities within it. What are containers? Let's look at it from the high-level perspective. A container is a standard unit of software that packages up the code and all its dependencies so the application runs quickly and reliably from one computing. As you can see, the screenshot on the right, containerized applications or containers makes your infrastructure lightweight by containerizing each and every application. That application is hosted on a Docker. Docker is hosted on the host operating system, and host operating system, of course, is hosted on infrastructure. Whereas you have bare metal, host operating system, or hypervisor, virtual machines, which makes your infrastructure quite complex and not lightweight. Containerizing application definitely makes it lightweight. So why do you think it's important to scan Docker images? As I described in the previous slide, Docker is the way to go in the modern infrastructure in cloud. And all of these important benefits can be outweighed if a vulnerability is exposed in one of the package. It's very important that we scan the Docker images, so it allows you to detect vulnerabilities in images before deploying or running that. Vulnerability scan reports helps to identify what needs to be patched or fixed in order to make the images as secure as possible. In this particular slide, we are going to look at OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities. OWASP is an organization that identifies application security vulnerabilities and benchmarks their security and protects themselves from cyber threats. It helps the organization to compare the common application security vulnerabilities and ensure that it helps them to protect their application from cyber threats. It is very important they have all the 10 vulnerabilities in a priority order. So that's very important for every organization to understand OWASP top 10 vulnerabilities and understand the benchmark to protect them from cyber threats. What are some common container security scan and its tools? There are two types of container security scan and its tool. First is enterprise tools with subscription, like Aqua, Prisma Cloud by Palo Alto Networks, Snyk. There are some open source tools that does not require your credit card. That is Snyk Community Edition and Trivi. We are going to look at container security scan via Snyk today. It's time for a demo. Before we dwell into demo, I want to show you guys the steps I'm going to take in today's session. We are going to install Snyk CLI on our Windows machine, which is pre-installed. I have already renamed the snyk-win.exe to Snyk. Then we are going to authenticate with Snyk, install the Docker on your Windows machine, download or pull Docker image, run Snyk scan on the Docker image, and review the vulnerabilities together. Let's do a quick demo. So as I mentioned earlier, I have already installed Snyk CLI. Give me 1 second. So right here, I'm going to start the command prompt, command or CLI. And here, I'm going to first check what Docker version I have. I have 24.0.6 Docker version running on my machine. The next step would be to pull a Docker image. And for sake of demo purpose, I'm using a already known Docker image that is vulnerable, and we are going to look into that image only for now. So it's pulling. As you can see here, there is no image in my Docker, but the moment it finishes up the download, it will have a Docker image. So right here, you can see the Docker image. The next step is to install we have already installed Snyk, and I'm going to authenticate with Snyk. So it will open up another window which will ask me to authenticate. And I have been authenticated with Snyk. The next step is to run a security scan. Snyk. Actually, container test Python 3.4-Alpine. Oops, I forgot. I made a typing mistake. And it's analyzing the container dependencies. And now it will show us the entire report, all the vulnerable items are classified as high, low, and medium. So in this particular Docker image, we have about 23 vulnerabilities, 3 being critical, 9 being high, 9 being medium, and 2 being low. Let's look at some of the vulnerabilities together. As you can see here, the critical vulnerabilities, the last one that I'm looking at right now, is out of bounds write. This is a vulnerability causing memory overflow. Then this is causing the SQL injection, and it is causing the memory overflow. Then there are several other vulnerabilities, but in summary, I just wanted to highlight there were 23 issues found, 23 vulnerabilities found, and those are listed here altogether. So there is one more vulnerability. It's a medium vulnerability noted in common vulnerability exposure database, CVE, and it's a known vulnerability. All of that is listed, and that's about it for the demo. You can repeat this lab